Hello, 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 everyone. This is Anthony from the PSBlue Podcast, back again with another quick message. So, as you could probably hear in my voice, I've had some sinus issues over the last month and a half. So, I've been going to work, coming home, and going to sleep. I haven't had a chance to upload what we have been recording, but we do have things out there. It's just about pushing it out and catching everyone back up. So the episode you're about to listen to, we recorded around Halloween time. So that's why you'll hear some Halloween references, and some of the news and topics might be a little bit dated, but we try and keep our episodes relevant no matter what. We do have topical stuff in there, so you're just gonna have to sort of hold your breath on that, but expect a more consistent uploading schedule over the next few weeks as I recuperate. And I might even do like 1 or 2 episodes like back to back so we can become a little bit more relevant again, because I want to talk about our God of War discussion. We've both played it and beaten it, and I want everyone to get in on that. And we are still a couple weeks, as far as recordings and uploads are concerned, a couple weeks behind. So thank you everyone for your patience and continued support. And without further ado, here's episode 19 of the PSBlue Podcast. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the PSBlue Podcast, available everywhere. This is episode 19. As always, I'm joined by Vinny, my cousin and co-host. How are we doing today?
Anthony, I'm doing great. It's Halloween season, my favorite time of the year. This is my favorite holiday. I don't know about you.
Really?
But I think as I've matured, I've grown an appreciation for Halloween. I love to be scared, so this is my favorite time of the year.
Yeah, I really like it too, and it's really fitting, the topics that we have. So it's sort of interesting how that worked. PT, Silent Hill, Modern Warfare 2. I mean, Modern Warfare 2, not really, but I mean, there's a Dead Space. We got a lot of Halloween-y topics today. So I agree with you there. It's a really fun time of year, and it gets you ready for the holiday season. Halloween, it just feels different. Summer's over. I hate summer. Growing up in Florida, it's just like the worst. It's so hot. Some people love it. I personally don't like how hot it is all the time. I like October. I like the weather situation. But anyway, what video games are you playing right now?
Dude, I've just been playing more Overwatch. I've been trying to play other games, but what I'm finding is before I go into them, I just say to myself, I could just be playing Overwatch right now. I'm still just so addicted to it that I'm still at that sort of initial phase of just being extremely addicted to a video game and not wanting to play anything else. So I would imagine that's going to end pretty soon here, considering all of these games coming out within the next few weeks. I think God of War in particular is probably going to be the one that, I clearly am going to stop playing Overwatch to just play God of War as much as I possibly can. Yeah. But yeah, dude, Overwatch 2, it's fantastic. We talked about it last week, so I won't, bring up everything that we discussed last week, but it's just so good. It really is just an incredible game. So it has its faults that we talked about, but I'm loving every moment of it. What about you? What are you diving into?
I am playing Nier Automata or Automata.
Ooh.
I still don't know which way you're supposed to pronounce it, but it's a special game. I can tell. And
really,
and yes, if you look at the sort of situation around this game critically, people say how amazing it is. That's all people say. It takes so many risks, and so far, every single one of them has paid off. Except for that annoying intro sequence. I can't, and you're going to laugh because I know you haven't played it yet, but once you get into it, you're going to laugh because you're going to go, wow, Anthony was right. This beginning sequence is a pain in my ass. I would say, I remember the last time we spoke, we both picked this game for each other. We were trying to do a segment called Backlog Battle, but it turned into 4-hour consideration.
Yes.
So we don't have a 4-year consideration at the end of this episode because we're both playing a game and kind of taking our time with it. But we're still working some stuff out here on the PSBlue Podcast. But anyway, getting back to it, the game is just fun to play. The story is convoluted as hell. I don't really know what's going on, but the game is just plain fun. And the other game that I've been diving into, and I'm going deep now with this game. And I didn't want to do this, but Horizon Forbidden West.
Wow. Still on Horizon.
Still on Horizon and going strong. I wasn't planning on doing all these side activities, but once I start, and this is why I said this last time, but once I start, I can't stop doing all the side stuff. The crazy thing is the game is so hard. I'm playing it on like the difficulty after normal. So I am playing it on a harder difficulty, but the game where I'm at is so hard that I have to grind these side quests out, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm so happy I'm doing it that way because the side quests are amazing. I know I talked about skipping some of the cutscenes and things of that nature, and that still holds true, but the gameplay, the writing it's excellent. And it's I don't want to talk too early about Game of the Year, but it's definitely the front runner for Game of the Year that is not Elden Ring, which is a category we will have for our Game of the Year podcast. I promise you that, because Elden Ring it changed the genre. But a little bit of a tangent. Anyway, before we dive into the episode, I have a new segment that I wanted to run past you, Vinny. You're not aware of this, so
okay.
This segment is called Check the Tape. Now, it's...
What did I do?
It's taking place of Quote of the Week. This is from episode 17 of the PSBlue podcast. And anyway, we're just going to listen in.
It's like a full campaign here.
You don't listen to me, do you?
And
I told you. I said play the campaign. It's Diddy Kong Racing.
Check the tape. You never said... Check the tape. You never said that.
I promise you.
Anthony, I went into the campaign mode. I was like, wait. So I had like 4 hours into it. I was like, this is like an actual campaign. I thought it was going to be a stupid
no, it's the campaign's amazing.
Ooh, Crash Team Racing. Okay, That's an interesting one. That is definitely off genre as you describe it.
Right.
That is. I haven't played a kart racer in forever. Forever.
This one's a little different because it has a really good campaign mode. Like, really good. Like, you don't have to beat it or anything, but I just want you to play specifically the campaign. Vinny, what do you have to say for yourself? Sorry to put you on the spot like that, but
yeah, that's embarrassing. I don't recall. I'm at a loss for words, man. It does sound like you did tell me. And you made it very specific, which makes it even worse. It wasn't like some off thing that you had mentioned. That was like you deliberately said only play the campaign mode.
Yeah. Which is what made it so funny. So Vinny, you were so cocky about it. You were like, yeah, you never said that. Okay. You never said that. And I actually did. Episode 15 of the PSBlue podcast, when I gave you that game, that's exactly what I said. So here we are, diving into episode 19, and we are going to start with the PS5 Pro. Yes, we've heard this rumor time and time again. The PlayStation 5 Pro is coming. There's a blueprint that got leaked out here. It's reported here and there. But according to this IGN article, yes, IGN, a very reputable source in the industry, there's dev kits circulating for the PS5 Pro and a newer upgraded model of the Xbox Series X / PS5 Pro equivalent. Vinny, talk to me about this.
I think we may have discussed this, albeit briefly, in the past, so I'm actually curious what your opinion on it is. It's not unexpected that there's going to be a PS5 Pro. I think everybody is expecting that, given the success of the PS4 Pro. And I remember when the PS4 Pro came out, there was like a huge debate. Do we need this? What is this? And the PS4 Pro wasn't really that big of a jump. I owned an original PS4. I own the Pro. And the jump from a PS4 to a PS4 Pro really wasn't that noticeable for me personally. Maybe very nominal in video games and how they ran. And I'm the frame rate guy on the channel here. So I didn't really notice. Maybe there were some games that ran at a couple extra frames, but it wasn't a leap, But based on this it sounds like we're getting a leap. This sounds like it's going to be like a whoa, like this article, this IGN article that you talked about here, some of the rumors, or I guess we should take things with a grain of salt for now, but this is from Tom Henderson, who's like a known, credible gaming insider, leaker, things like that. It sounds like this thing's going to do 4K 60 easy 4K 60, like native 4K, which on the PS5 right now is difficult for some games. So we're also going to get a clean 4K 120 FPS. And this is actually saying that there's going to be 8K supported on these devices. It talks about the next evolution of the Series X as well. But it looks like that's what they're going for, is 8K. I suppose it makes sense given that these are going to come out in 2023, 2024 based on what's leaked here. And that's a totally whole nother discussion that I'm sure you're going to bring up, where it's, do we really need this, this soon when it's impossible to get your hands on a PS5 still to this day? I don't know, man. I'm a little conflicted with this report. What are your feelings on this? 2023, let me tell you this. If this thing comes out next year, that's ridiculous. It cannot come out next year. I'm sorry. We do not need this console next year. I don't want to see a PS5 Pro next year. I just don't. I might be alone there. I'm curious to see what you're going to say about it. I think 2024 is the earliest that we could see this thing come out and me think to myself, okay, it's time. Like, I mean, looking back on it, Anthony, we've had PlayStation 5s for, 2, maybe 3 years now? We're coming on 3 years, I think, this year.
Yeah,
so
about 3 years.
It'll be about 3 years, and there just hasn't been anything, I feel like we're so early in this generation that's just too soon. So what are your thoughts? I know I'm rambling here, but for me, it just seems too soon, but the jump is there based on the leaks. So it does sound like we're getting a huge jump. I just feel like this is a little soon for me. It better not be next year, I swear. That would be ridiculous.
It's really weird. We're in this sort of situation now where a console isn't a console anymore. I don't know if that makes sense or not. It's like it's the next evolution of this gaming device that can play games like a console, right? And it's a new computer with new, because that's what the consoles are. They're computers. It's a computer with better hardware, for lack of a better phrase. It's a computer with better hardware. Now, what you get in a PS5 Pro is scalability, right? You can scale some of these games on the PS5 up to a higher performance or resolution or what have you, and that's what we've seen with the PS4 and the PS4 Pro. This scalability, loading screens are decreasing. Now you can do this certain resolution or that certain resolution, but we don't see games being the forefront of these conversations, in my opinion. It's all about reducing loading screen times, native 4K resolution, frame rate. Nothing is pushing the boundaries of gameplay, right? So that's the difference here. Is we're just in a different space. We're in a different space than we used to be. We're not going from 2D to 3D platforming. You know what I mean? We're not going from 480p to 1080p. That's the biggest leap I think you've ever seen. We're not going from 16-bit to 32-bit even. You know what I mean? This is all about making a new piece of hardware marketable and selling more consoles to proliferate the brand as much as possible. It's not about the games, in my opinion.
Really? That's interesting, Anthony, because I guess coming from somebody like me, that the frame rate guy, loves the way that games run, I think the jump from 30 to 60 is I think it's a massive jump. It is like a quantum leap, like generally, for me, coming from me. The games feel different, play different. This, to me, the specs, at least, or at least what it's going to output at, Ultra HD 8K 60 to 120 frames, that's what I was thinking the PlayStation 6 was going to be. You know what I mean? I thought that 8K would be the benchmark for the next generation, not this middle jump. And that's what kind of grabbed my eye personally. I think the leap is there, if this is accurate. And, I've played 120 frames on the PS5. I just played the most recent Modern Warfare 2 at 120 frames. The PS5 just can't do it. Like, it can do it. It can run a game at 120 frames. But the level of detail in the game, it's staggeringly, just dramatically less. Granted, I have limited experience with it. It's only with the PlayStation 5, that I've played. I was kind of flipping between the versions. If you can get Modern Warfare 2, let's say, for example, running at 120 frames and look as good as it looks, in the 60 frames mode that it does now, that to me is a leap. That is a genuine leap. That is a PlayStation 5 to PlayStation 6 leap, in my opinion. That's not... So it sounds like they're really making just an insane emphasis on, what these things are capable of internally. And I don't know, man. I just... This, to me, seems like way more of a leap than the PS4 Pro was. PS4 Pro was nominal at best. And
it just reminds me...
Yeah.
It reminds me of adding a rumble pack to your N64 controller. Like, it's a new feature. Cool. We can have a higher frame rate. And the rumble pack was cool. It was more immersive. There was no rumble on other controllers at the time, but it's not a different game. If you can run Modern Warfare 2 at 120 frames and still have a 4K resolution, that's great. But you could still play that game on PS4. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying, when is it going to be mandatory for the game? Like you were saying earlier, the PS5, we're so early into its life cycle. It doesn't really have this drastic library of exclusive games. When are we going to see a game developer say, no, we are not releasing a 30 FPS version of this game. This game will only be on PS5, and it will only run at 60 frames per second, 4K native. When are we going to see that?
Yeah. We just live in a different time, and I'm glad that you brought that up to your original point. It's just a different time, and these console life cycles are also really long. I think that's another thing. The PlayStation 4 console life cycle was forever. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it felt like it was about. I mean, it had to have been nearly 5 years over what the PS3's life cycle was, if I were to bet. Something like that. So I don't know, man. I'm conflicted about it. Is what I keep going back and forth here. I know it because it's sad, because I'm probably going to get one of these, being the frame rate guy and the things like that. I think this speaks to me, but we can't do this next year. It's just not right. And I'm curious to see, maybe I'll pull that up when we discuss maybe a next topic, when the PlayStation 4 came out, after the original PlayStation 4 released. To the best of your recollection, I feel like that felt appropriate. I felt like we were at least 5 years into the PlayStation 4's life cycle up to that point. And maybe I'm wrong on that in the comments. I'm sure I'll hear it, but it just felt a lot less like, we can't already see a PlayStation 5 Pro next year when the console is this early in its life cycle, and on top of that, is just not readily available to the general public. You can't do it. So, and imagine if you've been waiting years to get your hands on a PlayStation 5 now, 3 years, and you just got it, and you hear this news that the PS5 Pro is coming out next year. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like a slap in the face to some of the consumers. They got to be very careful about this and not release it too soon. But on the other side of the coin, I can't wait to get my hands on one of these bad boys. I'll be honest with you. To play these games at 120 frames, Anthony, and I brought it up on the podcast before that I cannot wait for you personally to play, particularly in FPS at 120 frames. I think you'll see the difference. I firmly believe that.
I mean, I think there's a difference there. I just don't know that I care enough. But I mean, 30 to 60, it's a huge leap. Like, it really is. I don't think that 60 to 120. We'd had this whole conversation last week, so I'll save it. But I just don't think it's as big of a leap. I think, not to harp on the same topic for too long, but I think going back to your point about selling original PS5s, I think the PS5 Pro is an excuse for Sony to lower the price of the PS5 and output more of that console. You see this happen all the time. They're going to come up with a PS5 Pro because and here's the other thing. Microsoft and Sony, we talked about this before, the console wars are back. If Microsoft is going to come out with an Xbox Series X to 1.5 Xbox One, whatever they're going to call it, because it'll have some really
HD remix.
HD remix. There you go.
Xbox Series X 1.5 HD remix.
Right. So when they come out with that, Sony has no choice but to come out with a PS5 Pro. Otherwise, they look like the inferior company. So it's like anything you can do, I can do better sort of a thing. And I don't know if it's good or bad. I just wish my point that I'm trying to drive home at the end of the day is let's just make it about video games again. That's why I'm not like a huge fan of VR, and that's like a known thing on the podcast. But VR is about changing the immersion of the gamer and creating something new and different. That's the direction that I think we should go in. How do we... Go ahead.
Sorry, to the VR point, I think that this console, with these specs, imagine what VR worlds can become. You know what I mean? With these specs,
but
with
the console,
this level of enhancement, with this level of detail that you can add. It has everything to do with the console.
It doesn't have everything. Well, it doesn't have nothing. It doesn't have nothing to do with the console.
Do with it.
But the console display, it's running on the display of the headset. The headset has hardware in it too that has to keep up with what's happening. So I don't know. I'm not a pro on VR, but I know that the headset is heavily involved in what you can do. So, but that's not even my point. My point isn't even about virtual reality. It's about looking at different ways to make a video game impact someone in a new way. And to me, it's not about 8K, 16K, 24K, 5000K. It's about having a core experience that is transcending what we've seen in the past. And where you see that is in Astro's Playroom, a game where this is a new way to experience something. Your controller is having some sort of sensory experience with the gamer. That is different. That is new. We need to start focusing on things like that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think that's why there's numbered releases, and then there are these pro models that are a slight upgrade of those numbers. So not anything like that. I'm sure the PlayStation 6 will, appease your appetite there. I have a good feeling about that. So you're gonna have to wait out until the. So you're not gonna get one of these, is what I'm hearing? No.
No, I probably will.
After all that, yeah, I'm probably gonna get one too.
All right, moving on. So Modern Warfare 2, the campaign is coming out very soon. It's releasing before the multiplayer comes out, which I believe we've seen this in the past, right, Vinny, with some of the other games, or am I wrong?
With some of the earlier Call of Duty games?
Yeah.
No, this is the first time that they've done this.
Oh, really?
Where the campaign releases a week earlier for those that pre-ordered, and it's only for the digital version, I think, that get access to the campaign. And it's a brilliant move, by the way. I know I talked about it briefly in the previous podcast in one of them, but this is a great move by Activision. I think it makes total sense, and it's really good to be able to play a Call of Duty campaign without thinking on the back of my mind, I could be leveling up in multiplayer right now. You don't want that on the back of your mind when you're playing a campaign.
I think it's a chance for people that don't play the campaign to have an opportunity to do so. And what I mean by that is some people are so heavily involved in the multiplayer that they get absorbed in it and they just never really see or give the campaign the time of day. This forces them of course, if you're excited for the new Modern Warfare gameplay and the multiplayer, you want to see the gameplay, you want to dive right in. Of course, you're going to play the campaign, whether you're a single player FPS guy or not. Whether or not, you know, what was I saying?
Oh, just you're going to play the campaign when it releases.
Yeah. I was saying whether or not you're someone who likes to play the campaign of one of these games, you have no choice if you want to see the new mechanics, the new graphics, the new this and that. And if you're hyped for Modern Warfare, you're going to play the campaign, even if you're only a multiplayer type of player. I agree with you. I think it's a really, really smart move. And I also think that, okay, let me just make this point by giving you an anecdote. So I was watching football, and a trailer came on for what I thought was a movie. And I was like, why are they making a movie with CGI? Like, why are they having like this CGI gloss over the movie? Because the graphics are so good in this that I mistook it for real actors that somehow got like a CGI treatment. I really thought that it was actors at first. The first time I saw it, just like giving it a glance, it's really, really impressive. Like I have to say, Vinny, what did you have a similar response to
I was the exact same way. And I know usually when you watch YouTube videos for like Call of Duty trailers, you read the comments, they're all negative because there's just that kind of negative connotation to a Call of Duty every year. It's the same thing every year. And I know the trailer that you're talking about, if you read the comments, they are almost all of them from what I saw, and this was like a week ago, so maybe things have changed, were all positive. Like, oh my gosh, like I cannot believe this is an actual video. Like, it does look real. And you can tell that's probably, to your earlier point, why they're releasing the game this early, or the single player. Another added component to that is that they spent a ton of money on these cutscenes, and the quality of the campaign is really high. They probably invested a lot of money, and they know that a large part of their fan base doesn't even touch these campaigns. And that's probably why, what was it, Black Ops 4 didn't even have a campaign, because they said, people just aren't playing these things. And if they're going to invest this money into these campaigns, they want people to play them, so it makes sense for them to release it at this time, at this window. But my goodness, dude, you're not kidding. This is like next level. This is like unlike anything I've seen. I mean, the cutscenes are usually really good, but this is like top tier. Like, no, oh my gosh, like it's outstanding.
I just to reiterate, it's something about the facial animations, whether it's mocap or whether I'm assuming it's mocap because these are some actors whose faces I recognize. The way that they were able to capture the performances and relay that to the CG models is the closest that I've seen to this is Death Stranding and Horizon. Same engine. They're very similar in the way that they're animated, but you could tell it's a video game, even though it looks great. This, Vinny, I swear to you, I thought I was watching a trailer for a movie. I was like, what movie is this? Why do they have some CG gloss over them? But I thought that they were like actors. I don't know how else to explain it. I don't know if it's the lighting. I'm pretty sure it's the animation of the facial animation. Like I said, I'm kind of talking in circles here, but something about these early clips, if this is actually what the game looks like, it's going to be one of the best looking games ever from a animation perspective, animating human emotions and performances. It's really, really something special. But having said all that, we were talking about this earlier. What do you actually want to see in the gameplay? Gameplay is so important. What do you want to see in the campaign? I'll tell you right off the bat what I want to see. I want to see big set pieces. I want to see some, unique way of, I want boots on the ground, but I want them to have some unique elements in it. And I want to care about the characters, and I want to care about the story, especially if we're getting this high level of animation. I want it to... I want to care about these people. And I want the campaign to be fun to play. And not just, enemies running toward you and then one random... you're a gunner in a tank and then you go back to shooting enemies. I want there to be some variety. What do you want to see in the Modern Warfare 2 campaign, Vinny?
I was reading the topics, and when I read this one, I kind of thought to myself, what are the things that I personally love in a Call of Duty campaign? And the one that kind of stands out to me the most, and I think that you've played this one, so you could probably speak to this as well, is Black Ops 1. And one of the things that you said was that I want to care about these characters. Now, Call of Duty, most of these campaigns suffer from the same problem, and it's that I just don't care about the characters. You can have the big set pieces, the almost cookie cutter action movie moments, like kind of going by the book to the point where I just don't care about any of the characters. But I want to go on that globe-trotting adventure, which is what these games are. But what Black Ops 1 did so brilliantly was it was a globe-trotting adventure, all over the place, but there's kind of that grounded story and that really well-told story. I just hope this has a good story for once. The last few Call of Duties, the last few campaigns, the majority of them over the last 10 years, I would argue, outside of, the most recent Modern Warfare in 2018, just really haven't had the best stories. They very cookie cutter, by the book, safe, nothing that's going to jump out at you. So I hope this game takes risks, man, with its story, and it takes turns, and I actually care about what's going on the screen, because that's when you get, in my opinion, the best top tier level of Call of Duty campaign. Because I love these campaigns, I'm going to love it regardless, because I'm very similar to you, where it's like, if this has great set pieces, that's going to be fun in general. I'm going to enjoy it. I have that sort of, I'm almost, I just enjoy that sort of aspect of the game. But I hope this has a good story, man. I really do. I hope it's grounded, boots to the ground. Like you said, we know we're getting that, but make me care about these characters. Is that going to happen here? I'm curious to see how much do I need to remember from Modern Warfare 1's campaign as well. Like, do I need to know everything that happened in that game? Because I'll be honest with you, I know bits and pieces of it, the bigger iconic moments of that campaign. But those were more from a gameplay standpoint, not necessarily a story standpoint. So I'm interested. I'm cautiously optimistic. The trailer looks awesome. Are they going to get me to care about these characters? That's the only thing that I'm worried about, and that's been something that Call of Duty has suffered with for a long time since the old Black Ops days. So we'll see, man. I'm very excited, though. This looks outstanding. It looks like it's going to be, at worst, a great Call of Duty campaign. In general, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to play. But the next level Call of Duty campaigns are those that can give a good story. So we'll see.
It would be such a waste of such talent again, I know I sound like I'm repeating myself so much, but it would be such a waste of this talented animation team and mocap team if the story wasn't written well. And it seems like it has, and it's just off first glance, it's just off this one trailer that I saw a few days ago, but it seems like they're trying to do something worthwhile. It really does. One thing that I wish they had was the ability to purchase portions of the game a la carte. I'm pretty sure they've done that before, where you could just purchase the campaign or just purchase the multiplayer. Didn't they try that with one of the Black Ops games, or one of the... might have been... I don't remember which one.
I don't think that they have. They may have done that with Call of Duty Zombies, I think, at one point. But I don't know if a campaign outright has been available to purchase.
I wish they would, because
Yeah.
I can't justify spending $70 on a 6-hour campaign. I just can't. I can't, because I'm not going to play the multiplayer. I mean, I'll play it. I'll go into it, just to get my ass handed to me. And then I'll be like, all right, everybody here's too good. Enjoy the kill streak. And then I just throw a grenade up in the air and then rage quit. And then that's that.
Well, I will certainly have firsthand impressions because it comes out this Friday. So
right.
I'm ready to play. I'm sure on the next podcast I'll be able to discuss if it lives up to these what are starting to become really high expectations, at least for me, and it sounds like from you as well. So we shall see. I'm very excited though.
Okay, great. So this is a fun one, Vinny. Somebody, this is according to Eurogamer.net. A data miner got PT. Remember PT from Kojima? And yeah, that was supposed to be like a Silent Hill, I guess, playable trailer is what PT supposedly stood for. Very creepy. One of the scariest horror experiences I've had in a video game. Anyway, somebody got PT to be playable on a PS5 from a hacked emulator. Streamer and data miner Lance McDonald has managed to get the game working on a non-jailbroken PS5 console. This is again courtesy of Eurogamer.net. Vinny, do you have anything to say about this? This kind of interesting story. We're a little light on topic, so
no, it's so funny just how this game is never going to die. You know what I mean? There's always going to be a PT story every year, it seems like. And the game came out like 10, 15 years ago. There's the first voice crack of the episode, by the way, courtesy of Vinny Massey. But the game it will never die, and it's because it is genuinely the most terrifying game that I think I've ever played personally. And it just has such an iconic kind of story behind it. You know, the infamously canceled Silent Hill game, so on and so forth. But man, it's just so funny how people are just finding different ways to play this game. And I'm sure Sony's they're going to release a patch where this ain't going to be a thing anymore. So maybe people get it while you can get it, but I would never hack my PlayStation 5 because I'd be terrified of getting banned on the Sony store. So I don't think I'll partake. But it is funny how this game is just, there's always a PT story every year. There's something that comes out about this game.
There really is,
because it's so good.
And it's really funny because I had it on my hard drive. I didn't know it was going to be like this cult thing to have PT on your hard drive, and don't you dare ever delete it. I probably deleted it to download Ragdoll Kung Fu or something.
I know, me too. It's so upsetting.
I'm so upset.
Yep.
Because I could have had it on my hard drive too. It was so different at the time, and I really feel like there was a lot of inspiration taken from PT and embedded in Resident Evil 7. Those two games sort of sing well together for me. They have a similar sort of vibe with the American home setting, and when I played Resident Evil 7, I was like, yes, this is more of that, and it was great. Resident Evil 8, yeah, but just a thought. If you're listening to this podcast and you liked PT, you enjoyed that, I think you should check out Resident Evil 7 if you haven't already. Vinny, do you disagree?
No, I mean, the inspiration is obvious. I think, in my opinion, I completely agree with you. I think that it's not even just Resident Evil 7, but a lot of, horror games that followed, were directly inspired by PT. The ultra realistic graphics on top of that, Resident Evil 7 has a lot of that too. It really is an iconic, one of those kind of, when we look back, when we're 50, 60 years old, we're going to look back and I'm still going to remember PT. It's going to be one of those games that's never going to escape my mind. And that's why the brilliance of this game. And also, let me just say this real quick. Brilliant marketing at the time, which I think had a huge part about it. It was just everything. It was almost like a perfect, combination of things going on with the release of this game. But the marketing, the way that they just mentioned the game during an E3 press conference, I don't know if you remember the E3 press conference when they announced PT, but it was just like a side item. They're like, oh, go check out this horror game. And then, people start playing it. They dig deeper and deeper. And then, before you know it, the game's announced. And it was just so brilliant. It's such a great story. Well, I guess it's a tragedy, if you will. But it's such an iconic story in the video game industry that it just has me still to this day, 10 years after, however long it's been up to this point, just grinding my teeth thinking like Kojima just has to make a horror game. He has to. Right. It's too good of a game for him just to call it quits on horror. So fingers crossed that this dude does something in the horror genre, because my goodness, it's an iconic game. It really is.
So this is a heavily related topic right on the docket next, but Silent Hill, their official Twitter, announced that the latest updates for the Silent Hill series will be revealed during the Silent Hill transmission on Wednesday, October 19th. So we're going to get an announcement of sorts regarding Silent Hill, which was heavily linked to PT. Originally, I could be wrong, but I'm 90% positive Norman Reedus was attached to Silent Hill before Kojima and Reedus ended up working together on Death Stranding. My question to you, Vinny, how much of Kojima's influence from the earlier iteration of Silent Hill is still going to be present in this new game?
It's a good question. I will start off by saying this. Firstly, I guess I'm definitely worried based on the leaks. There's the second one. Based on the leaks that have kind of
voice
come
crack
out.
Number 2, ladies and gentlemen.
That was voice crack number 2 on the day. Jets won yesterday, so you just got to bear with me because I was doing a lot of yelling. I'm a little worried.
Too, and I haven't voice cracked one. Go on, go ahead.
Well, let me ask you this, because I have a follow-up. I got to bounce a question off to you to see if you agree with me. I'm a little worried about this. And the reason being is what got leaked, like you said, is that it seems like there's a new Silent Hill game that they're going to announce tomorrow. The leak also references this is likely being developed by Layers of Fear Studio Bloober team. That to me is I'm a little worried. I've played, I don't know what your experience is with Bloober team's games. I think it's The Medium was the more recent one that they had. They did both of the Layers of Fears games. I want to say that they also did the Blair Witch game that came out a few years ago as well. I've played all of them, and they're okay. They're good at best. There's nothing that they've made that I'm like, oh my gosh, my goodness, they got to make a Silent Hill game. So it's interesting that they are purportedly the studio that Konami has tapped to make another Silent Hill game. It sounds like it's going to be a Silent Hill 2 remake, which, okay, that's good. At least the groundwork is already there. So there's a lot of moving parts here. It's just Bloober team. I'm a little bit hesitant to allow myself to get excited. Because I've gotten excited for games of theirs in the past. The Blair Witch game I was very excited about. I was also very excited about The Medium, and I didn't really particularly enjoy either of those. So what say you on that? I'm curious.
I played The Medium a little bit. It was okay. Critical reception of all of Bloober Team's games just at first glance, it kind of meh. Just to corroborate what you literally just said, but Blair Witch seems to be one of its more critically successful games. But even that was not. You didn't like Blair Witch? You didn't think it was good?
It was one of their better games for sure. I think that was probably the best one that I liked out of the Layers of Fear games, and the Medium and Blair Witch. I like Blair Witch the most, but again, good at best in my opinion. We're talking 75, right? It's nothing that's going to blow you away or anything like that.
Actually, Observer is their best received game. Observer got a 9 on IGN, 9 on GameSpot. Yeah.
I've never played that one, so.
Yeah, I remember seeing it on the PlayStation Store, but it looked kind of boring, to be perfectly honest. I don't know. They seem like that studio. You know who they remind me of that we talked about earlier was Spiders. Spiders. Yes. They're one of those like outside looking in developers that are just one big like game, one really good developer away from making something truly amazing. And maybe Konami provided that to Bloober. You know what I mean? Maybe Konami gave them the resources that they needed to truly realize their potential.
I just know, Anthony, not to cut you off there. This game, whatever it is, the scrutiny this game's going to get, if it's okay at best, is going to be insane. People have been clamoring for a Silent Hill game, particularly with what we just discussed, the brilliance of PT, and what could have been on the back of their mind. And I'm hoping you're right, that Konami understands how important this is, and hopefully they take notes on the Resident Evil 2 remake, on, the horror games that have gotten things right. The concern comes from, Bloober Team has had those games readily available to them, and yet their games are still, mediocre, meh. So I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little worried for this game, but again, we might see a trailer tomorrow and I say, oh my gosh, like, wow, this is that game. Like you said, that game that gets them over that hump of these sixes over and over and over again. And hopefully they've taken the critiques to heart and they bring it here with the Silent Hill game. So yeah. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but I'm just a little worried about it, to be honest with you, but we'll see, man. I'm definitely going to be watching. That's for sure.
I don't think there's any reality where Kojima stays with Konami and makes a Silent Hill game, and then we have an alternate reality where that doesn't happen, the reality that we're living in right now, and Bloober Team makes the Silent Hill game, and you play those games. I don't think there is a single, person that is going to say, wow, that Bloober Team game was way better than the Kojima game. They're just two different experiences. And this game is going to be completely, you're right, it's going to be linked to PT forever. Even though it's not. It's not. PT was the Kojima Silent Hill game. And this is going to be something else. And it's... I gotta agree with you. I don't think it's gonna be... I don't think it can live up to its potential, and that's because the bar is set so high for a Silent Hill game. So it's the every single year a Silent Hill game doesn't come out, the anticipation grows that much more. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
They need to be careful with this IP because it's one of the it's one of their biggest IPs that they have left. Yeah.
And they just can't rush something out, which I'm right there with you, man. I'm worried, but I'm also cautiously optimistic, I guess you could say. But it's almost like a lose-lose situation because this game's going to come out and people are just going to be looking for anything to get their hands on, to bash this game. And I hope that's not the case here. And my hope is that Bloober came to, went to Konami and said, hey, this is our vision for your game, and blew it out of the park. You know what I mean? And blew them out of the water. And that's the hope. But we'll see, man.
So really quickly before we move on, going back to my original question, you don't think that Kojima's work on this game has transferred over at all? You think they just ripped the page completely and started from scratch?
Yeah, I
Really?
think they're. Yeah, I don't think they want to touch PT because they don't want to draw those comparisons. I
But
just
I don't. I'm not saying specifically PT. PT was a different entity. I don't think PT was necessarily going to be what Silent Hill turned into, the Kojima Silent Hill. What I'm saying is, do you think that there's some story beats or like maybe a particular horror motif or maybe a setting or a character that Kojima drew up for Konami that transferred over into this new Silent Hill developed by Bloober Team?
that would be. I think that would be entirely up to Bloober Team. But I have my doubts that Konami would let Bloober Team have access. I mean, maybe they would and say, "Hey, this is what Kojima had, at his desk when he left our office. This is what was left on his desk. There's a couple photos of some creepy ass creatures here. Maybe use those." But my theory is that Bloober Team is probably going to want to do their own thing, disregard the PT. Maybe they just have a nod to Kojima somewhere within the game. Maybe there's something like that, but I don't think there's going to be anything substantial gathered from PT in this game. I'd be pretty surprised if that came out.
I don't think they would do a Easter egg nod to Kojima. That was a pretty nasty breakup from what I've gathered.
I think the latest news is that they've amended their hate for each other.
Oh,
slightly.
good. Well, dump this Bloober Team game then, and give us the real Silent Hill.
I know. Well, for a while there, that was the rumor, was that Kojima was making a Silent Hill game, and I was following it because I love.
You mean like again? You mean like again?
And that he had partnered up. This was a long time ago. This was probably 2-3 years ago at this point. Was that Kojima potentially was back?
But he's not. That. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, and that Konami would let him use the Silent Hill IP at his new studio to make his game that he wanted. But my theory is that, I think we're going to see a nod to Kojima. I think we are.
Maybe. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. Our last topic of the day before our for your consideration replacement is the Dead Space remake. So we got an extended look into the gameplay of the new Dead Space game that is coming out in 2023. I believe it's early 2023 as well. It is looking quite nice, I must say. So from what I remember of the original Dead Space, the limb thing is back where you're trying to shoot different limbs off of different enemies, and it does certain... It changes the gameplay and the dynamic of the gameplay and the enemies depending on how you dismember them. Very cool. There's a brand new tearing effect visually, so different enemies' body parts will now tear. The layers of their skin, I'm assuming, will come off in different ways depending on how you dismember them. This all sounds so gruesome, but it's really, in a weird way, sort of a twisted beautiful. It's not even really that gruesome. It's not, because they're aliens and they're it's such a sci-fi world that is definitely horror infused, but it's a beautiful game is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't really have that Scorn vibe to it, that really visceral, bloody nastiness going, but it does have a horror. I almost get like Alien vibes on Dead Space. It's looking really good, and it's looking like it's staying true to form, but at the same time being a complete package. And this game is, I'm assuming, going to be $70, and I would gladly spend the $70 for it. Those are my initial impressions of this new 10-minute gameplay video that came out. Vinny, what do you think about the Dead Space remake and the deeper look that we got to have?
Yeah, I'm right there with you with everything that you said. I completely agree. One thing that I will say is, me and you, from our history, we're not shy of giving EA, a mouthful about some of the crap that they do. But we got to be consistent here, and they it looks like they knocked this out of the park. Like, this looks outstanding. And for all the crap that we give EA, the way that they also handled this game, I know that we had discussed, in one of your videos as well, about Skate and the developers of the new Skate and the level of transparency. And it's been very similar with this Dead Space remake. I know that they're communicating with the fan base via forums, asking them, hey, how would you want us to handle this? How do you want to see this? And things like that, the kind of the hardcore Dead Space community. There's a lot of stories out there about how this game was made with and alongside the community, the diehard fans of Dead Space. And it's paying off. This looks amazing, man. It's just so funny that we're getting back-to-back games that are like this. Like, what are the odds of that happening? You know what I mean? Like, we're getting the Callisto Protocol early December. A month later, we're getting this remake. It's just it feels like such a small world that we haven't seen these type of games. And they look so good. Both of them look amazing. You know what I mean?
You see it all the time in movies and in different forms of art. You see it in video games too, where it's bizarre. It's almost like planned. And I think part of it is, I think that... Yeah, I think that there's some thought that goes into releasing this game next to this game, and part of it, I guess, is just like the meta, one game pushes the meta, and the other game sort of rides its coattails. It happens with movies too. You see certain horror subgenres of horror movies come out, like Sharknado, and then you have like a Tigernado or something like that. I don't know, I'm making that up, but you get the point I'm making. It's just the industry gets pushed in a certain direction, and I think that the marketing teams realize that and capitalize on it, and just they take advantage of trends. And I think that's what you're seeing is a certain trend happens, and then a certain trend is predicted to happen in the future, and you have two companies that strategically come up with a plan to capitalize on said trend. And I think that that's sort of what happens. Which one looks better to you? To me, Callisto Protocol looks better. And that might be a little biased because I've already played the original Dead Space and I've already been to that world, and this is a new world. But, trying to be as objective as I can, I still think I prefer Callisto Protocol. I think it's doing new and different things. What about you, Vinny?
Such a good question, because they're both... They look so good. I don't want to say that I like one more than the other, because it's going to sound like I'm just, putting down the other one when that's not the reality. I think I'm with you in that I'm more excited to play the Callisto Protocol because that's a world that I just have never seen. I'm still, unlike you, and I know we've gone back and forth about this on a previous podcast, I just get worried with first-time studios. I just do. There's been so many instances where a game comes out and the trailers look so good, or it's something that we just hadn't seen before, or something like that, right? And it's a first-time studio, and the game comes out and it just doesn't live up to the absurd expectations that were attached to it before it came out. It could still be good, but it doesn't live up to those expectations. So I'm still, just because, and forgive me, the studio that's making the Callisto Protocol, how am I forgetting their name?
Strike First or something like that?
Strike First Studios, I believe.
Striking
with
Distance.
Glenn Schofield. It's Glenn.
Distance.
Striking Distance Studios. That's right. I know Glenn Schofield's involved, and that makes me feel a lot more comfortable, but I'm still just trying as hard as I can to be cautiously optimistic. I don't want to get too excited and then the game comes out, but I'm right there with you. I think the Callisto Protocol looks better, but there's that little part of me that's still a little worried about it, but it's only because I've been duped over by new studios too many times for games that look exceptional and come out just don't live up to the hype. So
yeah,
we'll see.
well, I mean, we've already had this discussion, so I won't, retread. But I'll just quickly say, Striking Distance is a new studio in name only. Like you said, you have Glenn Schofield. You have the players in the gaming space already. It's just a new team and a new name. But to my earlier point about Dead Space not being gruesome and more just like beautiful, this game is beautifully gruesome in the Callisto Protocol. This game actually is very gruesome. So I just wanted to make that distinction. I also wanted to say that Callisto Protocol feels more like a horror game. Dead Space feels like an adventure game meets a horror game, almost like Resident Evil 4. Because Resident Evil 4, obviously, it's a horror game, but there's some adventure elements and some story elements that take it in a different direction. I kind of get the same vibe from Dead Space. They're trying to exist in the horror genre, but they're not diving into the horror genre, in my opinion, the way the Callisto Protocol does.
Yeah, I think Callisto Protocol does look scarier, but I will say this, based on the screenshots that I've seen, the kind of side-by-side comparisons of the Dead Space remake to the original, they are definitely leaning more in the direction of horror and trying to make the atmosphere more tense, darker, grittier, the lighting elements. Everything looks a lot scarier based on the screenshots that I've seen, but I do agree with you in that it is a little bit more action-adventure, but the remake looks way more horror than the original Dead Space, I think, in my opinion. It does look dark, and to me, it does look scary. I'll be honest with you, but the Callisto Protocol, when you put them side by side, Callisto Protocol looks way more gruesome and scarier, though. I do agree with you in that point.
Yeah, I think it's also, you can't undersell the technology aspect. When Dead Space came out, they just simply couldn't perform some of those lighting effects in the world. You know what I mean? So that definitely factors into it as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm ready to move on to our final topic if you are.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks great.
So we don't have a for your consideration today, but what we do have is a topic that I've been wanting to talk about for a while now, Vinny, and it is your favorite games that didn't come out in 2022, but you've played them in 2022. So if you need a second to think, that's fine. I have to go take care of something anyway. But so this is games in 2022 that you've played in 2022 that didn't come out in 2022. It could be a game that came out in 1985. I don't care. It's just a game that you played this year that isn't from this year. Okay? So hold that thought. I'll be right back.
So a few games come to my mind personally. I would say the first one, forgive me, my PlayStation just made a noise in the background, but the first game that comes to my mind is Rayman Legends. Have you played Rayman Legends?
Interesting. Yeah, I have. I haven't beaten it, but I've
hot dog, Anthony. This game is good. It's
Really?
not only good, it's like reaching 9 out of 10 levels. I'm almost done with it. I've been playing it like on and off, over the last 2 months or so.
Is it hard?
And what's that?
Is it hard?
Yes, it is hard. It gets really hard, which is part of the reason why I had to stop playing. But there are levels that are 10 out of 10. There are multiple levels that are 10 out of 10 in terms of platforming, the music. That's one thing that I talk a lot when I talk about my platformers, how important music is to me. The music in Rayman Legends is what makes it, I think, so great. It is like 10 out of 10 music for platforming. Outstanding. And just in general, the game's a whole lot of fun. I picked it up for like $4. I remembered, I was like, I never played this. I never played the first one. And the art style, to this day, I think the game came out at least 5-6 years ago, and the art style holds up. I mean, it's one of those art styles that's it's never going to go, it's never going to go bad. It's going to live for a very long time, this game. And it's a lot of fun. It just is. I'm surprised. You've played it briefly?
I've probably played like half of it, honestly.
Yeah.
I played some of it co-op with Kelly.
Oh, okay. There you go. Well, I'm loving it. And let me say this real quick, because there's one other game that kind of just came to my mind. But I have been, I'll be very transparent. I've been playing it on Switch, but it is a PlayStation game. Okay? But as I'm playing it, I'm reminded of how good it was. And funny enough, it was one of the random games. Do you remember when we discussed a random game that I'd been craving? Funny enough, I bought it on my Switch, and I've been playing it over the last few weeks.
No, I don't remember.
It's just as good as I remember it.
What?
Ni no Kuni and Wrath of the White Witch. It is so good. It is so much fun. It is such a good game.
I love that game. I never beat it. I got and I do this with all these RPGs. I get to the very end and then I never beat them.
Oh my gosh, it is so good.
Did you?
It's a shame that they aren't making them anymore. Or at least that one, isn't purportedly, at least that I've seen, is in the making. I know they did the sequel, but my gosh, it is so good, man. My goodness.
The second game is supposed to be like really easy. That's why I never picked it up. It's on sale all the time on the PlayStation Store. But like just that whole the game's so easy, just kind of is like repellent for me. I want to play something that is. It doesn't have to be hard, but I have to actually be able to use the things in the game that they give you strategically. If I feel like I can just cheese by spamming one button, it's just not fun for me. But the first one is really hard.
It is. It's really, really hard.
How far are you in that game?
I'm probably like 6 or 7 hours.
Oh my God, you're like not even. It's like
I only
it's
recently
long.
Over the last few days, I've probably put in like 5 hours, just because it's something that I play right before I go to bed, and I'll end up playing for a few hours, and it's so good, and it's also very beautiful. To this day,
it's very beautiful. I love Drippy.
Oh my goodness,
the lantern guy.
Drippy, yes,
he's so funny.
Drippy, Mr.
He's
Drippy,
so funny.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Is. So, what about you, Anthony? What have you played?
So, this game came out in. Let me do some research really fast. It actually the PS5 version of the game just got released, so
doesn't count. I'm just kidding.
It came out in 2017 though. What Remains of Edith Finch? It's a walking simulator. It is probably one of the best written games I've ever played. Except for like the ending, but like the characters were so well written. It was a really interesting game about this family where I guess when a family member dies, they like seal off their their room, and then they keep building on new family members into the room, and each family member has like a different personality, and you go through as like one of the remaining members of the family, and you go through all their rooms, and one of them's like an actor, one of them is like a just like a loser type character, not a loser, but that's such a bad word. I don't mean it like that, but like a college dropout type, and they all have these different personalities and playing styles. One of them you play as like a little kid, and they turn into a cat in their imagination, and it's so hard to explain. But it came out 17 like 5 years ago. And it's one of the best walking simulators by far that I've ever played. Those games are like nice when you just want to chill and like hang out for a little bit. I want to go back farther than that though, because I feel like I've played a game that came out not in the 2010s.
Let me ask you a question while you're pulling something up, Anthony, because this is going to sound super random, but I just saw an ad on here and I had no idea that this was coming out on Friday. Was it you that played Tales from the Borderlands and said it was really good? I can't remember if it was you or someone else that I had spoken to. Tales from the Borderlands?
It might have been Joey, because he likes those Telltale games. I played it. It was fine, but
yeah. I don't know. Did you know there's a new Tales from the Borderlands game coming out on Friday?
Yeah, I did.
I had no idea. Maybe I'll check that out.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know who's making that game, because it's not. Oh, I got another good one though. Okay. Just to dive right back in, Wolfenstein. I told you I was playing that. It is like the a hidden gem. The original not the original, but the original Wolfenstein 1 remake. It came out in 2014, something like that. It was like the beginning of the PS4's life cycle. I'm trying to find it. Wolfenstein: The New Order. Anyway, it's like real good. Like really, really good. 2014. So it came out 8 years ago. And it still holds up. It's kind of got like a Half-Life vibe to me. A little bit more linear though, and that there are levels that build off of each other, but it has that adventure shooter sort of energy to it. Have you ever played Half-Life?
No, I've never played the game.
Oh, that's a game that you must play at some point in your life. It is a classic. But anyway, those are a couple games that I've played. Shadow of the Colossus is another one. Demon Souls, because Demon Souls came out in 2020, so it's cheating a little bit, but whatever. What other games did I play from last? Not this year that I really liked in 2022.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know for
How about
me,
you?
one that I didn't mention that we talked about, that was probably the reason why it didn't come to my mind, Inscription. Probably my game of the year so far.
Okay.
But that goes without saying.
But let's talk about this. Inscription can't be your game of the year 2022 and a game that didn't come out in 2022 that you played. Like, in 2022. Like, it can't be both. You're like bending the rules.
It came out last year, though, technically, didn't it? Yeah, I'm gonna get penalized by some sort of higher
then it can't be your game of the year.
What I'm saying.
It can't be your game of the year. So you got to pick one.
Which is this? Did it come out this year or last year? Yeah.
Inscription. I can say that too. I played Inscription this year, but I played it on PC.
Yeah.
What other games? NHL 22. I played. NHL 23 just came out. But I'm not spending $70 on an EA sports game. I refuse to do that. And probably the biggest surprise to me, the game that holds up the best by far. Like, this game is graphically, gameplay wise, just everything about this game. It feels like it could fit right in with a game from 2020, 2021, 2022. Nier Automata. It is like, it plays so well. It plays like a game that just came out. It really does. That game came out a very long time ago. Like, a very long time ago. It came out in 2017 also. That's 5 years.
Yeah.
Almost 6. It came out in February.
I haven't actually even purchased the game yet. I need to this week. Have you? Is there a PS5 version, or are we just looking PS4?
No, it's a PS4, and you can tell that it's 1080p and not 4K. You know, after you play a lot of 4K, you can sort of realize that. But it is just surprisingly good. And it's cringe at some points. It is it's never repetitive, but there's certain sections that are kind of annoying. But it's surprisingly a lot like a Souls game, and that was not something I was expecting. There's like a lot of elements that remind me of a Souls game in Nier. Cyberpunk, there's another one. Cyberpunk 2077, that is another game. So there are so many. The point of this the point of this talking point, God, oh my God, I sound so redundant. The point of this talking point. The reason I made this a talking point is because I just wanted to show people that there are so many good games out there, maybe some that you've played, maybe some that you haven't, that did not come out this year that you can still go back to and just really enjoy yourself. I will say a game like Wolfenstein doesn't hold up as well as a game like Nier Automata. Wolfenstein feels like an older game. Like, that's why I compared it to Half-Life. Like, it holds up well, but it definitely shows its age a little bit. But yeah, I mean, those are the pretty big ones for me. Games that I've played this year that didn't come out this year. Do you have any more, Vinny, before we sign off? And I know this is a little random at the end of the episode, but I couldn't think of anything better.
No, I think it's cool. I would also just say pretty much all of my for your consideration games, Crash 4, Psychonauts 2.
True.
Go a little bit down memory lane here for the podcast. You guys go check out those earlier episodes. Find out my thoughts. But yes.
Yeah, Crash 4 is that's a game that I always come back to. I can't get enough of that game, and I'm so excited that they're making a Crash 5. What else? I think that's, I mean, as far as games that didn't come out this year that I played this year, that's the majority of the ones that I really wanted to highlight. Definitely Wolfenstein I was surprised by, and definitely Nier Automata I'm very surprised. Oh, and Death Stranding as well is another one. All really solid games that, you know, it's really sad, Vinny, because and I know I made this point already, but I want to make it again. If you just released Nier Automata on October 18th, 2022, and you said it was a new game and just like up-res the graphics or something, I would be 15 times more addicted to it. There's something about that new game smell that just really gets you.
Yeah.
So
of course.
I wish there was a way that I could like pretend that these games were brand new and had just come out. Have you played Control?
I think I briefly played it, but I was probably playing something else during it. I think it was a free game of the month not too long ago. At that point, I played it.
Yeah, it was so bad. This is one of a really good example of a game that shouldn't have come out on PS4 and actually serves the gameplay on PS5. The game runs like absolute garbage on PS4. And I played it all the way through and beat it, and it was a really fun time. I'm not going to lie. It was a really good game. But it ran like garbage. The story didn't make any sense. You need a lot of like you need to do some research going into the game if you care about the story. I didn't really care that much about the story, so I didn't get too involved with that. But the gameplay it's real good. Like really, really good. And apparently it's in the same universe as the Alan Wake games.
Super bizarre. I heard that.
Yeah, a little weird.
It's so weird.
Yeah, a little weird tidbit there, but I hope you liked this segment of Anthony and Vinny ramble about video games for 25 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's
Vinny, do you have anything to add? This is why I like For Your Consideration. It's a great way to end the episode. We're going to come back next week. So Nier Automata, just to let everyone know, that's going to be like, beat that game whenever you get a chance to. And if it's 6 months from now, whatever, eventually we're going to do like an all-encompassing review of that game. Yeah. And that'll be fun because we're both playing it right now. You're supposed to be playing it. You haven't yet, whatever. But anyway, we'll still do For Your Consideration. I just didn't have, it was a really, really busy week for me, and I didn't have a chance to come up with a good topic or, Vinny, let me throw it to you. Are there any topics, or genres that you feel like we haven't touched on yet that you want to touch on?
Genres, man. You know, one thing that I can't wait to actually just do is both of us playing the game at the same time that just came out. It's finally going to happen with God of War. We're going to have our coming out party here with a game that we're both going to be playing at the same time. That's new. So it's finally going to, all the stars are going to align here a little bit. So it's going to be fun to talk about a game together when we're both, you know, actively playing it. That's new and fresh. So it's going to happen. And that's in a few weeks from now. Once God of War launches.
I'm still trying to figure out a good way to do that, though. Like, how do we talk about a game that we're both concurrently playing without spoiling a part for the other person? Like, how do we go about that?
How would we explain what? I'm sorry.
So let's say like we want to do like a review in progress sort of a thing. How would we
Yeah.
all right, what part of the game are you at? Did you get to the part where
We
Kratos
would-
kills himself? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
we're gonna have to.
How would you do that?
We're gonna have to discuss prior beforehand.
We're gonna have to talk
maybe
in code or something.
Initial impressions that doesn't give away too much, and then we can have a full-on
Right.
spoiler talk at some point.
What's going to be fun about the Last of Us series is we're going to do episode by episode. I really can't wait for that.
That's gonna be fun.
That'll be fun to talk about. But yeah, I'll leave our listeners with this. I have a sort of an existential crisis going on in my brain every single day, and this is what it is. Do I play God of War 2018 on PS5 60 FPS and go back and experience that story one more time to hype myself up for the new God of War, or do I just dislocate myself from that gameplay and story and all that stuff and come in fresh? What are you doing, Vinny? What's your strategy?
My approach right now is that second that you threw
That's
out
been
there,
mine.
which
That's
is
been mine too.
I'm gonna just disassociate myself with the game, try to talk about it as minimal as possible. Hard to do when we have a PlayStation podcast, but
Right.
I'm gonna try to not associate myself with it until I just get it in my hands, and I know I'm gonna play it.
I feel like once this second game comes out, I'm never going to go back and play that first game again. And what a shame that is. That's how I feel. That's how
I did
genuinely
see
feel.
online, Anthony. Online. I did see that and I think I mentioned this to you, that the review copies are already out. And an interesting tidbit on that, the review embargo got leaked as well. Like, a lot of the reviewers are saying, "Hey, my review is going to launch on this date." It's a week before the game comes out.
Wow.
Now, typically when you see something like that, it means Sony knows what they have. You know what I mean? Usually it means they know this is going to get a 10.
Yeah.
So you don't see a week out,
No, it's usually a couple days.
It's
usually
very,
2-3 days.
very exciting. Usually the games that you have to worry about are those that the review embargo is the day that the game, physically releases.
Yeah.
But Sony typically does this, and typically that means that their games are outstanding. So, just an interesting little tidbit there that I saw online. So I can't wait, man.
Yeah. So I think that I will continue my approach of pretending God of War doesn't exist. And it sounds like you're going to do the same. And then I really should have taken off of work. I really should have taken off of work for God of War. Oh man, doesn't it come out on the 9th?
Yeah, it comes out the 9th.
Oh, God, that's a Wednesday. My
Correct.
day's off for Sunday,
wait.
Monday. That's terrible.
Yeah, I guess
Oh,
it does come out on the
God.
Wednesday. Yep.
Why would they do that? Don't they know my day's off for Sunday, Monday?
You didn't talk to Sony?
No, I didn't. And I can't. That means I can't even play Tuesday at midnight. I'm probably going to play at midnight on Tuesday for an hour and then go to bed.
That is a
Vinny
bizarre
just made a
day.
face.
Wednesday?
Yeah, no, I know. I did that with the last game I did that with was I think it was, I don't know if it was Ratchet and Clank or Horizon. It was one of those big ones though. One of those big games. I was like, I gotta.
I think the last time I did that was Elden Ring. I remember I'd waited.
Oh, that's what it was.
I played
That's
it
what.
and
That's
then
exactly what
yeah.
it was. I did it for Elden Ring.
Yep.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it for this episode of the PS Blue Podcast. A little short, a very slow week, but episode 20, we are giving away a $20 PlayStation gift card. So make sure that you tune in next week for episode 20 of the PS Blue Podcast. We will see you back, and we are going to give that code away. So come in with a secret phrase, and it could be yours. That's it for this episode of the PS Blue Podcast. Take care and have a great rest of your day.
Bye, guys.